legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search or seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to talk to my attorneys, John Targowski and Daniel Groh. Targowski and Groh have the education and experience you need to be successful in Michigan courts. Call Targowski and Groh toll-free, 800-957-1069. The law offices of Targowski and Groh, 800-957-1069. Hey, Steve Greene here to tell you about my good friends over at the Hydro Hut Garden Supply Store in Inkster. Why am I so excited about Hydro Hut? The $200 Mad Light deal. That's right. $200 gets you a 1,000-watt high-pressure sodium bulb, an E-wing reflector, and a digital ballast. That's right, a digital one. Call them today at 313-228-5544. It's Hydro Hut. It's 20% off on your first purchase, but you got to mention the Medical Marijuana Radio Show to get it. Check them out at hydrohutonline.com. That's Hydro Hut at hydrohutonline.com.
11, a News Channel 3 exclusive. Is the Medicinal Marijuana Act creating more work for drug enforcement teams? According to state police, Michigan ranks in the top 10 every year for busting marijuana grow operations. Drug enforcement teams haul away and burn tens of thousands of pounds of the plant every year. And rather than cutting back those numbers, enforcement teams say medicinal marijuana may actually be making them larger. News Channel 3's Jared Worksmith spent the day high above the ground searching for pot fields with the Southwest Enforcement Team in Cass and Berrien counties. He's back now, joining us live to show us how medicinal marijuana may be creating more illegal operations. Jared.
And it's a pretty common sense, you know. I mean, there are, according to Michigan.gov, there's more than 130,000 people now in Michigan who have applied for and received a medicinal marijuana card for a patient. And so, unfortunately, that is often where their diligence ends. So there are now tens of thousands of people across the state who are allowed to grow marijuana, but they don't take the time, just a few minutes, to figure out how to do it legally.
Ready?
We loaded up.
Hold on.
Strapped in. And took to the skies.
All right, we're looking for a big green bushy plant.
And it didn't take long to spot some.
There's some big bushy plants right there. You think you got some?
Unfortunately, I didn't. But shortly after, the well-trained eyes of Lieutenant Pat Lawrence homed in on the target.
Where is it? And you're going to see the plants right down there in the opening. Yeah. Wow.
And then he spotted something else.
A single white male with shorts and no shirt on walking from the shed near where the plants are back up to the residence.
But when he saw us, he seemed to be in a hurry to leave.
Gray vehicle, it's a small SUV or compact car. Anyhow, it's just northbound at a high rate of speed through the intersection.
We followed the man until a trooper could pull him over, which only took a few minutes. And a few minutes later, the sweat ground crew was busy. Ripping up.
Okay.
And bagging months of his hard work.
What was going on? What was going through your head when you first saw that helicopter?
Well, to be honest, my first thought was it could either be here for me, from what I was doing in the back, or it could just be another random helicopter.
So you weren't running when we saw you then?
No. So I know the number one rule is run from a cop.
And once he was pulled over, he was honest about his plants.
They asked me if they were mine. I'm like, yeah, I'm a medical patient. I have my card on me right there.
Problem is he had 24 plants, twice as many as a patient is allowed to have under the law, and they weren't in a closed, locked structure. So if they can be spotted, they can be taken, because ignorance is no excuse.
This situation right here, I hate it. I can't stand it, to be honest with you.
All right, now, since that gentleman cooperated with us, we did agree not to identify him, and his case is going to go on to the prosecutor's office, and whether he's charged or not, he's still out at least 24 plants, and he says thousands of dollars and months of work, all of which could have been avoided if he had just taken a few minutes, gone on to Michigan.gov, and looked up the rules for the Medicinal Marijuana Act. We did it tonight. It just takes a couple of minutes. Also, every drug enforcement team that we work with says they encourage people to contact them with questions. They'll even come out and look at your garden or your grow operation to make sure that your plants aren't going to be confiscated. So there are really no excuses. We're live tonight outside of our WWMT studios. I'm Jared Worksma, News Channel 3.
Countdown to launch. It's the Medical Marijuana
Launch commit.
Radio Show.
Guidance is internal. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
that medical marijuana show. 855-MMM Radio. Keep it legal, keep it legal, keep it legal, keep it legal. You tuned in to that medical marijuana show.
Fresh off the backs of Cedar Point out in Sandusky, Ohio. Today we are live in the studio in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, Steve is the host with the co-host Denise. Starting at noon Saturdays every week. Yes, we keeping you legal. Legislators and lawyers, doctors and the growers. The show is for the people. Michigan medical marijuana, no hassle. We talk about anything, any issue we can handle. Call us up and let us know what is on your mind. And make sure when you do it legal every time. You tune in to that medical marijuana show. 855-MMM Radio. Keep it legal, keep it legal, keep it legal, keep it legal.
Okay, first off, it is the 21st of July. Got that straight. 2012. I'm Steve Greene, patient and caregiver. With us in the studio, the usual cast of characters. Business attorney Denise Policella. Hello.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Happy July 21st. It's the solstice, yes?
Yes.
Yay.
Well, no, that would be
longest
June.
That's June 21st.
June 21st.
Solstice was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
All right.
It
Never mind.
That was almost.
It sounds important.
4 weeks
July
ago,
21st
almost.
sounds important to me for some reason.
July is a good time. It's hot. It's definitely hot.
Yeah.
And if you're growing outside, you better be watering. Did you get the piece up front?
I didn't.
The rest
I'm
of the
glad
people in
we
the
were
studio
off air.
are. We stopped at Denise. You were going to introduce the rest of us.
Oh,
She
I'm sorry. I'm
sidetracked
sorry.
you.
Rick
you're right.
Thompson's here.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
I get side railed. Rick Thompson in the studio, usual cast of characters.
Yes.
Rick with Midwest Multimedia Management. Yes.
Yes.
Is that how I can pigeonhole you now?
Yes. Please do.
That's a lot of
It's
M's.
a lot of M's, too.
Yeah.
It is.
It's exactly
4 M's. Yeah, I figured that out.
And
That's on purpose.
Yeah, I figured that out.
I'm sure it is. And you avoided the word marijuana and all. It could have been 5 M's. You could have gone 1 M better. You do realize that.
I could have, but I didn't want to go too far afield.
We would have had to include a C.
Doesn't sound like you.
You're right. It doesn't sound like me. I was making sense for a change.
Ryan in the studio. Intern Ryan. Do you want to just ever say your last name, Ryan? I'll just call you Ryan.
Just call me Ryan. That works for me.
Don't call you late for dinner.
Don't
call
call
me
any meals, not just dinner. Let's not
Ryan
play
with
games.
the Sweet Tigers
So
jersey on today.
it seems I can go nowhere without stirring up controversy. Except Cedar Point. Boy, wasn't that a blast. Oh, you don't know what you missed, Denise.
We had so much fun.
I have a good idea.
And no controversy,
trade you.
all love. Everybody liked us. They even invited us back.
Oh, yeah. We're
Take that, Howell Bloomfest.
hoping to go. Yeah, really. Michelle, you know who you are. Keep a token, Michelle.
Eat it.
Anyway, let's stop picking on those guys. Look,
No, let's not.
the Cedar Point thing was so much fun. I think I left a spleen and a kidney on one of those rides. I'm not sure.
You can't see, but I'm pouting.
Well, you hurt yourself. You had a
I
boo-boo.
did. I'm actually still in pain, but much less pain. Thank you.
And if you found Steve's spleen, please report it back to the office.
You turned it
at
lost
Cedar
and found at
I'm
Cedar
thinking
Point.
maybe a couple of roller coasters would have been good for my back.
I don't know.
Oh, no. I was on the Mantis, and I still have marks on my shoulders from that harness that
Do
they
you
put me
really?
in. Yeah. Exactly.
Did you ever do the dragster?
No, I didn't do that. I did not do the dragster. I had 9 people with me there at Cedar Point, so they were kind of demanding on my time.
It's a good thing you didn't do the dragster, man.
Wait,
I'm just telling you.
Loved it. Don't
No, I
say
got in
that
that dragster and I sat down and I went, oh, God, what did I get myself into? It's too late now because they're down the countdown, you know?
And then 3 seconds later, you were talking to him.
No, and 3 seconds later, I was done with the ride. That's what I was saying. I was like, whoa, what happened? For a second there, you're literally an astronaut on that
Oh,
ride.
yeah.
But we really did have great reception from the crew at Cedar Point. Everything that we did was a success. All of the folks there were outstanding. They've invited us back. That was a successful remote broadcast. I would love to be able to go back there for Halloween weekends.
Let's try and do that. Yeah. I'm sure it's a possibility.
And we'll get a bus. Everybody that's listening can go with us, too.
That would be a badass thing. You could put it on the calendar. Maybe put it on the 420 calendar.
The 420 calendar.
And people can figure out how to get there and, do the... I've never done the Cedar Point Halloween Weekends thing.
You know what? I haven't done it for a while, but the last time I was there was pretty nice.
It
was
is
a long
so
time
cool.
ago.
I do it every year.
Do they do all the rides too?
All the rides are going. The whole place is decked out in Halloween, fashion.
You got the mummy's tattered stuff in your face while you're going down,
Not while you're on the rides.
No.
Everything's decorated around, but they change up some of the buildings and turn them into haunted houses, which are very good haunted houses.
Is it Haunted Snoopy on Ice then?
They have things for children also that aren't so spooky in the daytime.
The Great Pumpkin Patch Charlie Brown.
Zombie Snoopy.
That's so cute.
That would be a memory that sticks with kids. Zombie
I'm sure
Snoopy.
we got a chance to go
His
back.
nose falls off.
Maybe we'll be able to show
Frank
off
and Snoopy.
better than we did this year. We didn't have a couple of cameras with us out there this year. I really wanted to get a couple of extra cameras out there.
Well, time's always a factor, I think.
You know, time was a factor for us this weekend. I got a bone to pick. It's the equipment. That's what started my late. Look, for people who didn't know better, because you might not have known better, I was like seconds away from getting on the air here today because I had a key fiasco. I lost the keys. The keys wouldn't have been a problem because I'd have found them earlier if I wasn't busy digging for equipment. Remember a couple of weeks ago I came in here with the stuff and went to go set up the internet stuff so people could see us in the studio. That's how that broadcast happens. Without that equipment, it doesn't happen. So there was a piece missing, remember?
Oh, yes.
And so today, when I went to go put the stuff together, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be fumbling for that piece before I go on the air. Because I had to go back, and it was a 5-hour adventure fixing that for later. Won't get into all of that. But anyway, the equipment, I started putting it together this morning in advance so that I just had the package because usually I've got all the equipment, everything we do, it's all in one big thing. I separated out the stuff that we need for the studio just here today. And I'm like, it's not, oh God. You know, the guy that we rent some video equipment from, I called up to complain because that's another whole story, but I called up to say, because he overcharged us and didn't give us equipment for the video shoot. And we couldn't use our cameras out there because we didn't have tripods, which we rented but didn't get. So long story short on that, I called him up to complain and say, look, can't we get some of our money back? Because it's kind of expensive to rent that equipment. And we could only use like a microphone and maybe a cable. And he's like, oh, I'll give you $20 back. And I'm like, no, dude. All right, well, we won't have this argument now. But he's like, he countered with, look, you didn't even bring all my equipment back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The camera cords, the stuff that powers his cameras, even though we didn't use them, was taken out of his stuff and mixed up with mine.
Oh, good Lord.
And so and then on top of that, I figured out that I still got a couple of you guys got to put the stuff back in the bags that they came out of. Because if you don't, oh God, it just causes stuff like happened here today. But the bigger thing is that Channel 3 piece on the front end of the show.
Disgusting.
I said a bad word off air. I'm glad we didn't have our mics on.
We were listening to that thing off air, and it came up this week. I think it came out Monday or Tuesday. It might have been late last weekend or something. This piece aired
out of Grand Rapids, I believe.
The reporter made me mad. Number one, because he's not very professional as a reporter. From this standpoint, he didn't separate himself from the story. He wanted to make himself part of the police in that story. Yeah. He kept referring himself. Oh, we let him go. He was nice because they were honest with us.
He even pointed out how he tried to point out marijuana plants that turned out to be wrong. Come on, that's not even part of the story.
Rule number one as a journalist: don't be the story.
Right.
So I'm just sorry, Channel 3. I got to go shame on you for that one.
That ride-along was bad.
And, you know, it's not Medicinal Marijuana Act. It's the Medical Marijuana Act. Can you read, Channel 3?
And his reading of the law was wrong, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Amen.
WWMT out there in Kalamazoo. We'll discuss some of the indoor-outdoor controversy that resulted on the Facebook after I posted that story. Coming up on the Medical Marijuana Radio Show. Don't go away.
Got something to say?
Call now toll free. 855-MMM Radio. The Medical Marijuana Radio Network.
When I was young, I knew something was wrong. My mother would forget to pick me up from school.
Drugs and alcohol may make you forget your problems. And more.
Then she remembered something. Me! My mom worked hard to be in recovery. And now she is here for me. Hi, Mom!
You ready? Let's go!
For drug and alcohol treatment for you or someone you love, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you or someone you know received a traffic ticket, has been charged with a misdemeanor, drinking and driving, criminal offense, or has had their driver's license taken away, they need an attorney. They need attorney Glenn McCandless. He's helped hundreds of people solve their legal problems over the past 16 years.
My law firm is dedicated to providing quality legal services at affordable rates.
Call us at 586-755-2900. Again, that's 586-755-2900. Call now.
The law offices of Targowski and Grow remind you to stand up for your rights. Always treat law enforcement with respect, but if you're detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search or seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to talk to my attorneys, John Targowski and Daniel Grow. Targowski and Grow have the education and experience you need to be successful in Michigan courts. Call Targowski and Grow toll-free, 800-957-1069. The law offices of Targowski and Grow, 800-957-1069.
radio show.
Okay, so late breaking news on the Cedar Point. They made an announcement that Ryan just told me about. They told us while we were at Cedar Point, in case you didn't get a chance to see the show or listen last week, they made an announcement they're pulling down the big needle. They're pulling down the needle, the big, it's skyline history at Cedar Point. And then they're also pulling down the
disaster transport.
Disaster transport's the indoor roller coaster. If it's got the big 12E on the side of the building. You can't miss it when you're in the park.
You can apparently, because I've never seen it.
You've never been
on the beach. It used to be where the penguins were. The old penguinarium is what they did in.
The indoor. You never did the indoor roller coaster?
No,
wow.
I didn't even know it was there.
Mountain.
So
it's
better than Space.
It's like riding the
Is it
Magnum
really?
at night in there. Kind of. Well, it's not quite as fast.
Magnum roller coaster. That's what you're referring to. Right?
Yeah, right.
Hey,
watch it there, Ricky.
What
So we're talking about the Channel 3 thing. But tell us what they were going to do with that space at Cedar Point.
They're going to put in a winged roller coaster. The track's in the center, of course, and the seats will be on the right and the left of the track.
They made the announcement this week.
Yes, this week. So I'm sure that's
so
going to be...
they must have already started demolition
so if
then?
the coaster flies
they're
off the track, they can make a soft landing.
That's right, into cotton. There's cotton lined all around it, and you just...
God almighty.
So it's a fling coaster.
We'd never be happy with the roller
It's a
coasters
winged coaster, and I'm sure it's going to be the highlight of the spring. Next spring, that's going to be their new attraction.
Good, that'll clear out the people in line in front of me for the Raptor.
The 30th of July, as far as I remember what we were told, the end of this month. That's it. No more needle, no more disaster transport.
They're doing human slingshots now.
Excellent.
Cool.
They have ripcord in the adventure side.
That is like a human slingshot, isn't it?
That's right.
All right, back to the subject at hand, because we didn't get to talk about the political stuff last week. And boy, stuff's been a brewing.
That's true.
So we just first off with the just to kind of wrap up the Channel 3 thing and what that was about. You got the outdoor grow people, and I've been telling people for a long time, and I've got enemies for it. I don't know why, because they're my friends. I'm trying to help them. They think that somehow I'm telling lies and breeding disease, and
to some people you can't impugn outside.
I'm poisoning the community with disinformation. Yeah. Look. Growing inside or outside, and Denise or any of the other lawyers can agree or disagree with me, but I think they'll agree with me. Growing inside and outside is illegal in the state. Yes, Denise?
What?
It's illegal to grow it's still illegal to grow pot.
Well, yeah, none of it's legal.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's decriminalized. Is that what you mean? Like everything you do is already illegal, but you have affirmative defenses toward not being prosecuted.
I just want to get people's filtration system on correctly, because
use the
people
word
go,
legal.
we're legal, and you're just not legal. It's still illegal, and they'll charge you accordingly if you don't play by some certain set of...
You're right. The word legal gets tossed around quite a bit.
Well, the first thing when a cop pulls something, I've seen him do it. It's the first thing they go, "Oh no, I'm legal. I got my card. Here's my card. I'm legal."
That false sense of security gets them in trouble.
Yeah, people are complacent right now, and I think the word legal is simply a lay word for decriminalized, because people don't know the lingo, but they're using it.
People are lazy. They don't like to be distinct.
Most people can't make the distinction because maybe they've not been educated in that.
Right.
That's the other thing. See, there's the distinct group.
Let me add, I don't agree that growing marijuana outside is not allowed under the act.
Well, I agree here. Let me just draw this back to the point, because we're making this very confusing without being clear. Okay. My point is this. As a guy that's advocating for this community and trying to keep people out of trouble and trying to keep people in favor with what we're trying to accomplish here, I try to tell the truth of the matter.
You try to educate.
Unvarnished, unfiltered. Just here's the simple facts of the matter. And the fact of the matter is, growing indoors or out in this state is illegal statewide and federally. Except you've got this card system we've created, which gives us an exception to prosecution and a defense in case they do. And so this is going through the courts. And the part about growing inside is this. First off, if you're growing in a residence, you enjoy some privacy rights that you don't otherwise have out of doors. And then second off, the indoor grows have had their opportunity to make their way through the court systems, so there's some identified differences between what we allow in the act and what we don't allow in the act. The outdoor grows, this has not really occurred with yet. This hasn't been filtered through. There's no mainstream, widely accepted form of outdoor growing that's not going to get you knocked and busted if a cop doesn't have the mind to do it. And that's all I'm trying to say. I can't advocate for somebody to grow out of doors when it may get them in trouble because they don't even understand the basics of whether or not it's legal in the first place, let alone the closed lock facility thing and what that means. And so there's some very adamant people about, yes, you're exactly correct. I agree. Number one, let me just raise that flag first off. The act gives you permission to grow outdoors. Just the way it's constructed, it was intended to give you permission to grow outdoors. But the courts have not widely accepted that yet. Yes or no?
There are a lot of parts, you're going to hate my answer because it's going to be maybe, that there are a lot of parts of the act that haven't been fully litigated out.
Yes.
Okay, but what I'm going to tell you right now is that secured, locked, and closed facility applies both to the indoor and outdoor grows.
Yes.
I think that if you have a grow outdoors that is secured, locked, and enclosed and meets those requirements,
yes,
then you'll be fine.
Clearly.
The where people tend to trip up is that they don't, and the only thing that this reporter said that was correct is that people aren't educating themselves quite enough before they get into it, which they need to do. The state website is not the place to do it.
3-minute visit to the state website is not helping you.
No, I mean the way he said people, it made it sound that like people could do it quickly.
And just understand the rules and just abide by them.
Like they didn't because they were lazy, and that's not true.
All they had to do was take a couple of minutes. It doesn't take very long. He even outlined
take
that.
a couple minutes to make sure they're legal. What a loser.
And the state website is certainly not the place to go for this. It's not at all.
We had a caller last week on our show. Well, not last week, 2 weeks ago. He was a guy that's up in Saginaw, and he was calling to complain about this very thing. Yeah. Where I did something that might have gotten me in trouble, but I didn't know, because when you get the stupid card, it's misleading from certain standpoints because
it's completely misleading.
It gives you the impression that these things are okay when certain things are just clearly still a danger from a legal standpoint.
I would love to file some sort of class action or mass action lawsuit to compel the state to start educating people, because I think that there's a significant amount of just a lack of information at the state level. People don't know where to go. I mean, and you have to look for people like me or people like Rick or people, and sometimes you don't know if you're not in the industry regularly. You don't know if the information you're getting at a particular dispensary or on a particular website is good information. You just don't.
And the state of Michigan spends thousands and thousands of dollars on educating people about things like public health issues, about how AIDS prevention and things like that. Why could they not spend a little bit of that budget on educating people on the proper way to use medical marijuana?
And it's, it wouldn't be hard. There's not a ton of law on this either way, regulatory or case law, but there's enough that you can give guidance, and they don't do any on the state website. Well, and they don't point to anywhere you can, and it's unfortunate because people are, leaping before they're looking, but they're also under the impression much of the time that what they're doing is okay when it's not.
This thing about the Supreme Court decisions, they have a binding effect on the law. It's case law. It's not the way the law was written, which is what you'll find on the website. That's all you'll find is the plain language of the act on the website.
What you find on the website is the law as it was passed and looked in 2008 and 2009, and that's all you get, which is
and no guidance.
Far
nothing pointing you even to the things that have modified the law as it relates to your adherence to.
Right, which is happening constantly. So, it's unfortunate that this guy had a grow outside that apparently wasn't, although I don't know, they didn't say, wasn't secured, locked, and enclosed, but that reporter really clearly didn't know what he was talking about.
Well, and here's the other thing.
He made it sound like it's this simple little thing, and it's not.
Like everybody should just understand this automatically, and it's really not that cut and dry.
What if the grow that he was standing at and was walking away from when they flew overhead was his and somebody else's? It might have been another patient with his plants.
He said 24 plants. 24 plants. That must have been more than one.
And Matt Newberg has brought this up a few times. Matt, if you don't know, I know you guys know who he is, but for our audience, he's a very well-established attorney in the area. He litigates a lot of high-profile cases. He's very good at what he does. And he's brought up the fact that he believes that a lot of these flyovers are violating the Constitution because they're flying too low. And I would tend to agree with him. I think that it's going to be very difficult to prove it, but that, I have a really big problem with just random flyovers and landing in people's backyards and arresting them. I have a huge problem with that.
Wasn't there some, now maybe you're not even familiar with this, but wasn't there some point, some either in the state or the federal level, Supreme Court decision or an appeals court decision that talked about privacy rights as it related to equipment that could peer into your home, like heat-seeking equipment.
Thermal devices, imaging devices.
Yeah,
right.
that was a Sixth Amendment violation, right?
Privacy rights.
Privacy rights, yes.
Because the equipment was able to look inside and see activity that was occurring in the home that you otherwise had no access to.
Right.
And that wasn't standardly available to anybody else either.
I mean, it's been interesting. The federal government and the U.S. Supreme Court have made some wildly conflicting decisions over the last couple of years. You've got first of all that they can't do a warrantless tap of a car. Okay, they can't just warrantlessly follow your car around
with a GPS device
or a bug or anything like that. We've got that. They have to go get a warrant, but then they can strip search you at will at any facility, even if it was a false arrest. We've got a very odd mixture of privacy protections and privacy violations going on at the federal level right now.
That shows there's no real consensus amongst justices. There really isn't, and even within the Justice Department itself.
Well,
I think it's been difficult because I think we've been sort of in slow motion losing a significant number of our personal liberties and our privacy rights since 2001, and that we'll be looking back, not we, but
our children,
I hope,
next generations. Hopefully, it's
nice.
us.
But 100 years from now, they'll be looking back, going, "God, I can't believe that happened so fast." Yeah, I can't believe they let that happen.
Well, here's what I think is going on. It seems there's a number of examples I can think of it where people just can't relate to the founding of our country anymore and why it began. Why we ran from England in the first place. Unreasonable search and seizure was a huge, huge issue.
Well, and a lot of times people
forced quartering was another huge issue.
The political expedience of today overrules our historical memory from the past. And unfortunately, we've lost direction as far as where this nation's going, as far as what we intend to do as far as protection for our people.
People have lost the understanding of why there was separation of church and state.
And why states have different powers from the federal government as well.
That's right. The division of the powers of government. Exactly.
Purposefully intended, purposefully put in there to prevent some of the situations we're experiencing today.
Because there is corruption weeding its way through our government. It's happened with every free economy in existence. Yeah. And eventually it will consume you if you don't get back with your roots and figure out what these fundamental rights are and why we decided that we have them.
Well, that's the thing with the Patriot Act, that came up in 2001, George Bush, and then we had our Democratic leader, President Obama, re-sign, a year ago, 6 months ago? That time is over, but yet we're still holding the Patriot Act.
And the whole thing was, who was it that said, if you give up freedom for security, you don't have either.
Yeah, I know Tim Beck uses that phrase all the time. I can't recall the quote, but it's actually very true. Once you start making compromises on your personal liberties, then it's a slippery slope and you can't get back to the top.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just saying,
Couldn't agree more.
Pay attention to why these things exist, and don't be so easily distracted by the 24-hour news cycle that wants to bring your attention over here. Look, this whole thing, this tragedy that happened with this movie shooting, should not be consuming the entire news of what happened to the rest of the news of the day. I understand this is bad, and you should report about it and update accordingly. But why does it have to be everything on TV and radio? Has got to be that.
Just like we saw with Columbine, this will consume.
No,
all
it wasn't even close to that.
All of the news stations will be focused on this Aurora shooting that we've just had with the Dark Knight movie premiere. All of it. We're going to have to deal with the fallout from this politically and in the news cycle for 6 months.
Oh, I'll bet you there'll be conspiracy theory from the gun guys.
Yeah, it's going to start
that'll say that this is all about somebody did this on purpose so that we could modify gun law.
No.
Yeah, well, the guy was wearing body armor. I mean, he quite purposefully. And we just watched on the news before we came on air about they're searching for booby traps within the movie theater itself. Am I lying? Did we not see that?
Don't go to the men's room. Watch out. There's a booby trap.
We just saw this on television. I mean, this is going from a single incident, which is horrible and terrible and tragic, to something way beyond anything it ever should have been.
His apartment is fully booby trapped right now. So they can't get in it. They're trying to figure out how to get in it. I was just listening to the news on the way in, and they said they're going to reverse 911 call the entire neighborhood because they're going to try to get in it today, but it might explode. So they're trying to evacuate everybody. It's crazy. But his apartment
cut a hole in the drywall and you go in through the neighbor's place.
The worst that can happen is it's going to start a small fire or something.
No, or cops will die because it'll blow up while they're trying to get in. That's unavoidable.
Send a robot in.
People were commenting online about how this is happening more often, but we've got a lot of people in this country, so there are going to be a lot of
100 million people means one crackpot's not really.
I'm waiting to see how many people got to take their shoes off before they go watch the latest release from Warner Brothers.
It's going to be a lot more bad people, along with a lot more good people.
Yeah, you're not going to get away with sneaking in Skittles anymore, are you?
Is it a parka or a body armor? I'm not sure.
What I want to know is how he got out the emergency exit without sounding an alarm.
A good point, because he's got all that metal on him. I mean, come on.
He left the theater. He bought a ticket.
And propped the emergency door.
Propped the emergency exit door open.
So he could re-enter with that gun.
And then went to his car and armored up and came back in. But what I'm trying to figure out is why the emergency exit alarm didn't go off.
Good point.
Maybe there's no local requirement for the emergency exit to alarm.
I detect a bunch of lawsuits against the theater now.
Well, it's called an emergency exit.
Right, but why does it got to go off if it's an alarm? I'm having an emergency. I've got to get out of the building quickly, but it doesn't necessarily have to alarm everybody
I believe
else.
there's a mistake here also. I don't think that it's an emergency exit, actually. I think it's just the exit out the theater. And instead of going back to the theater lobby, instead of going back to the lobby, you can walk out by the actual screen and go to the parking lot that way. So that's why there wasn't a buzzer.
They don't allow that, do they?
Absolutely. You go to MJR in Waterford or Brighton, you can go in.
Not anymore. I don't.
Oh, I don't think that's true at all. They force you to walk back through that line to show your ticket stub, man. They definitely do.
Well,
Maybe
no, I'm
Aurora,
saying
Colorado's
if you just go like at the MJR in Brighton anyway, you go down the hallway that's where all the theaters are at, and at the end there's an exit door that goes directly outside, and I think that's the kind of door he's talking about.
Right, but
okay. See, I thought they were talking about the actual
inside the
theater exit door. No, that is a fire. That is a fire exit.
And those should be alarmed too, because you don't want people sneaking in.
Well, that's the understanding.
But see, that's like if I want to go have a smoke during the movie, that's what I'll do. I'll go outside, go walk out to the exit door, and then go out the exit door.
You can't get through a movie without not having a cigarette.
I'm saying if I want to. I didn't say I would. That's what I've done in the past. Like if it's a 4-hour movie, look, you go to watch,
Titanic.
Dances.
Yeah, it's really long. I'm going to go out and have a smoke.
So we're some of that media that's now focusing so much on this Aurora situation, we're ignoring the other issues.
No, not really. It plays into things. It does. All of this plays in.
Because it is going to change the way we go see a movie.
But it has nothing to do with the medical marijuana radio show, is what Rick's saying. We're not doing that.
No, I'm just saying we're part of the problem that we just complained about with media focusing so much on this one thing.
Yeah, but we're not picking apart the guy in his place and all that stuff. We're just looking at the implications and how it might affect our lives.
Netflix got a hold of this guy and brainwashed him.
It's the Jason Bourne series of movies. They brainwashed them, making everybody think they're super soldiers.
Yep.
Everybody's Jason Bourne now.
Yep.
I don't get the mentality of people that want to hurt other people. I just don't get it.
Well, you're not supposed to get it.
They're deviants for a reason.
Yeah.
They're deviants for a reason.
The problem is that it's like they said
Video
in that one
game
movie.
mentality.
Really, nothing. There's no history of anything happening until it does. So this guy was not, so far as we know, troubled until now, or officially troubled until
society
now.
couldn't point him out anyway.
It is going to be a classic example of watch this affect your rights. Watch how this modifies laws to prevent this in the future. Good Lord, we can't have another one of these.
There'll be metal detectors at theaters now. You'll watch.
Which, you know what?
And it'll increase ticket prices.
I'm not opposed.
I don't have a huge problem with a metal detector at a theater as long as it's not an airport. But at the same time, it's unfortunate that it has to be like that.
Yeah, because America's innocence is being eroded this way.
Right. And unfortunately, we're so new as far as a nation goes. In Europe, they've seen violence so many times over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years that it's not really as bad for them as it is for us, in my opinion.
And the reason, and there are people who would side with me on this, the reason that the wheels of government turn slowly is so we don't have knee-jerk reactions that cause bad policy as a response to these kinds of things.
No, you're absolutely right. That's the entire reason the checks and balances system
Why one
was
person
created.
doesn't get to make calls, right?
Yeah, well, except the president.
Well.
Because
we've definitely seen the executive powers.
We go overboard,
expanded.
and the thing that Ryan brought up with the Patriot Act is a classic example of how we would trade in our rights for something that is supposed to be done in an effort to protect us. And I just say be careful of what you wish for.
I agree.
Amen.
So we'll come back with more. Ryan, are you ready to do some radio news? Did you?
Cannabis news? Yes, I'm ready.
Cannabis radio news. We're
Yes,
coming.
sir.
Yeah, that's what this show is about.
Coming back with more on the Medical Marijuana Radio Show.
No,
Thanks.
it's Cedar Point and travel.
What were we talking about?
We're back in a second.
More of your calls next. We gotta bend over or no? Yeah, you gotta. Okay. Steve and Rick will be right back after this. The Medical Marijuana Radio Network.
Hey, Steve Greene here for the Medical Marijuana Certifications at AMMP. They're the American Medical Marijuana Professionals. You'll find them just north of Utica Road on Gratiot in Roseville. Their address is 28349.
Now, call-ins are welcome, but you're better off calling for an appointment. They have a toll-free number, 877-RX-420-99. That's 877-RX-420-99 for American Medical Marijuana Professionals. That's AMMP on Gratiot in Roseville.
If you or someone you know received a traffic ticket, has been charged with a misdemeanor, drinking and driving, criminal offense, or has had their driver's license taken away, they need an attorney. They need attorney Glenn McCandless. He's helped hundreds of people solve their legal problems over the past 16 years.
My law firm is dedicated to providing quality legal services at affordable rates.
Call us at 586-755-2900. Again, that's 586-755-2900. Call now.
Hey, Steve Greene here to tell you about my good friends over at the Hydro Hut Garden Supply Store in Inkster. Why am I so excited about Hydro Hut? The $200 Mad Light deal. That's right. $200 gets you a 1,000-watt high-pressure sodium bulb, an E-wing reflector, and a digital ballast. That's right, a digital one. Call them today at 313-228-5544. It's Hydro Hut. It's 20% off on your first purchase, but you got to mention the Medical Marijuana Radio Show to get it. Check them out at hydrohutonline.com. That's Hydro Hut at hydrohutonline.com.
So we're back. We're going to fire off some news, Cannabis Radio news with Ryan. Ryan, have you been working on the news, getting it better? Have you got a system down?
Wait,
all
you
this
want
is about
better news?
Yes. Yeah.
Better news and better system.
Go get better news, Ryan. We don't like the news you had last time.
I'm booting up, so let me boot up
World
here.
Peace. Wait, what else do we want?
You got to boot the news now?
I got to boot it.
He's out finding better news.
Yeah, you just sent
don't
me on a
like his
mission.
news.
We're on a mission.
I'm going to win the lottery,
Nice.
and there's going to be world peace.
In better news.
Yeah.
Snoring.
All right.
Are you saying my news is boring?
Is that snoring?
It is.
Snoring.
I told you, Steve, the news is the news. You're the one that doesn't want to be part of the story, and yet you're sending him out for better news.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to talk all day, we're never going to get to the news. I'm just picking
I'm not booted up anyways.
Well, that's what I'm trying to cover for you, Brian. You're blowing
With
my
the-
cover
with
for
the
the
sl-
cover.
with the sleeping
Yeah,
bag?
because it's
intelligent
fun.
cover.
I think it's fun.
I can
Have you booted up
news.
yet? Nothing.
We're close. We're close.
Good God! Can't you print the news before we get to the? We had 2 minutes during the break to boot.
There we go.
news.
We're up.
Okay.
I have news.
And Ryan with the Radio Cannabis News.
Let's see here. Thank you, Steve. A new study shows teenagers that drink alcohol are more likely to abuse drugs like LSD, cocaine, and amphetamines. The present study included data from over 14,000 high school students from all around the United States. President Obama will be in Oakland for a fundraiser this Monday where a number of medical marijuana patients have planned a rally to call on the president to stop the recent forfeiture action and amend the shutting down of local dispensaries, and a call for the firing of Melinda Haag, the U.S. Attorney for California. And last but not least, of course, there are 3 states that will vote in November for full legalization of marijuana: Washington, Oregon, and Colorado. If any of these measures pass, it will change the marijuana community in ways that we can't even imagine yet. Amsterdam only has decriminalization laws, not legalization.
That's absolutely true.
Thank you for
It is true.
listening to the Cannabis News. I'm Ryan Briggold.
There have been interesting little pockets.
Rick, are you
that
sleeping?
doesn't sound like a snore, so we can.
Come on.
There.
That was not me.
I'm telling you.
Those noises did not come
Look,
from my
I'm
orifices.
pretty sure that, did you go to Taco Bell instead of the McDonald's before
Telling
the
you,
show?
it doesn't sound like snoring.
You have to go to Del Taco. Better product.
No.
You get a whistle when you
They
go from
don't
Del
have
Taco.
Doritos tacos, dude.
Oh, Dorito Loco.
Oh, those are fantastic.
good.
The chocolate splats.
Nobody's left in the room now after the
Yeah, that's right. No, the medical marijuana news, always very good to hear. Thank you, Ryan. And we got a glimpse into your last name there, so you slipped a little bit.
Hey, it's really crazy because people assume that marijuana is legal in Amsterdam and it's only legal in Portugal. And now what? Colombia, and Chicago.
Well, they're trying to do it in Uruguay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, it is legal in Uruguay. Now Uruguay's trying to
fully
produce it as a
legalize
government.
it in Uruguay, right? Government produced and sold and regulated, and it's decriminalized in Chicago.
Wouldn't it be nice if
It's
Attorney
misspoke.
General Bill Schuette came out, a couple of days from now, had a news conference and said, "Yeah, I'm opening up my own cannabis store. We're just going to start selling cannabis. Come get your cannabis. Come on, come on."
You rode one too many rides at Cedar Point. You're losing your mind.
You're making a joke, but do you think for 1 minute that he wouldn't?
No, he
2
would.
days
He
after?
probably would.
He would
I'm
profit
telling you
off
right
this like a
now,
big dog if he could.
He is working something behind the scenes.
He's
going to
be doing it. He's taking it from us.
He's an opportunist like any
I'll
other
tell
big
you what.
businessman.
As soon as some high up government officials figure out a way to do this, it's going to be legal, and they're gonna completely control it and monopolize it.
Well, think about this. You've got the pharmaceutical companies who are already grabbing little bits of cannabis, all the little chemical attributes that are contributing to our health. They're grabbing, they're patenting, they're controlling. So within a few years, all of the essential ingredients of the cannabis plant will be identified and pharmaceutically trademarked by somebody else. Once that happens, they can go ahead and do anything they want. They can make the cannabis plant legal or illegal because now the existent system to profit from it will be in place, and you and I will be left out.
And this is where Representative Carlton, when we spoke to him, was right on target. And this is what I want our legislators to help us do: protect Michigan's right to produce marijuana.
Ooh, speaking of which,
locally,
and you just brought Rep. Carlton up. Isn't he out having a fundraiser today out in Ann Arbor? Isn't he?
He certainly is. He's at the Ohm of Medicine having a fundraiser today.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I'll be seeing him. I'm on my way to art fair.
Are you going to, tomorrow, Rep. Carlton's having another fundraiser out in East
Flint.
Lansing.
In East
Believe
Lansing,
it or
I'm sorry.
not.
It's in Hazlitt. It's a Hazlitt. They're having a golf fair out there.
Brace yourself.
Golf and pig roast.
But I'm working tomorrow, and I have 2 meetings with clients.
What, on a Sunday?
Should I bring them $25 to support them? Bring your $25. I'll bring you back a plate of pig.
But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Carlton.
Oh, really?
Rep.
Yikes.
Carlton is.
I'll give you $50 to please not bring me back a plate of pig.
Wow.
Well, we're
You
going to
bring
be
me the pig. I'll
we're
take
going to
it.
be posing with a police hat with the pig and the apple and the roast.
Because that's not a stereotype. That's not a stereotype. But when Rep. Carlton,
Hey, they would have done it for us in a minute. They'd
when
have
we do
paid it
these,
out. Yeah.
These fundraisers for Rep. Carlton go to his PAC, his Political Action Committee, which funds candidates. So when you're going out to support these at the golf outing or at Ohm or at Flint Safe Transfer when he has a thing up there, you're really going to contribute more than just to one individual, but to a lot of people that feel that marijuana should be made legal.
Do you golf, Ryan?
I do. I actually enjoy it.
You look like the golfing type.
I'm a hack, though. You don't want to put me on your private course. I like to have a good time.
I
don't want
You're the guy that puts all the divots back. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. My ball just.
You're a 19th holer.
Yes.
Yes.
I like the par threes, and I like to go out with just me and somebody else. I don't want anybody behind me. Just let me be.
That event,
So you shoot like 100 then.
Yeah, exactly.
The event tomorrow is a golfing
If you're
event.
not in triple digits on the golf course, then you don't know what you're doing.
I don't even know how to score.
The score gets better the higher you get, right?
That's
Is that
right.
how golf
Yes,
works?
it
I
is.
think so.
That's how everything works for me.
But
all I
this
know is they have the
thing.
world's largest handicap in golf.
I'm best with a
Constantly-
best ball tournament.
I get calls from people who don't necessarily need legal advice. They just got my name from somewhere and they're frustrated and they want to, they want to unload for a minute, and they're constantly asking me what to do. And for those of you who are listening right now, this is what you do. Representative Carlton needs support. This guy's on our side. He's already in the legislature. He's already on board with this. Let's support Representative Carlton and get some things done, because grassroots, no pun intended, is excellent politics. It works.
All politics is local.
But sometimes you have to, beat them before you can join them, or join them before you can beat them. And this is our opportunity right here.
Support 5580, not 5681, though.
Yes,
The two competing House bills that both would authorize commercial production or commercial distribution, they're completely different. And for those of you that may not be familiar, take the time to log on to a website where some of the analysis has been done. Do a Google search. There's plenty of people out there that have talked about the difference between the two. And educate yourself, because one you definitely should support, one you should definitely oppose.
And if you don't have time to educate yourself, just believe Rick, because he's done all of it for you.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the?
It's true though.
There was another bill I wanted to look up. Now I got to log into my own stupid website. I can't look up my own stupid.
It's not a stupid website. It's a good website.
Well, I don't know if I could do the logging in from here because I don't have my Facebook open, and you got to click in with you got to log in.
Complicated.
It is complicated.
Book the face.
Well, it's Bob's been working on that site really for a long time.
Yay,
Anyways,
Bob. Bob's a good guy. Yay, Bob.
he's got all the local news links up. If you want to go check them out, we've got much of these stories and more on RadioWeedShow.com. You'll also find, I believe, a link to Rick Thompson's new 420 calendar, which kind of talks about all the events available throughout the state. Eventually, maybe we'll get some other states, stuff on there. That would be a very cool thing.
Yeah, there's some national events on there too, but there are so many things state-specific that we could go and have 50 of them if we needed to.
Well, and it's a great thing. I've always been a proponent of making people aware of what's going on inside of our community, and having a calendar that's available to everybody on an electronic basis
it's free.
is a great thing
free.
to do. It's what's it? 420calendar.com. What is it?
It's actually Midwest Multimedia Management /newserific/420 calendar. So don't do that. Just go and find it. Google it and you can click.
You spell that.
Just Google it and click.
I feel confused
Google
now.
it. Google it.
It's like
Google
playing-
420 calendar. Rick Thompson's 420 calendar.
Pin the tail on the donkey. Spin me around. I don't know what's going on now.
Google 420 calendar.
That's probably the easiest way to go.
Or do it on Facebook.
Or just
Google
go
what
to
is Rick doing
RadioWeedShow.com
right
and
now?
click on it. You'll get there. Where in the world is Rick?
I do not want a cameraman following me around. I'm in enough trouble already, let me tell you.
Should we play the contest today, you guys? Should we try and do the contest? Because I promised we'd try and do the
Give away
contest.
Cedar Point tickets. Oh, no, wait.
Well, I guess we could start figuring out a way to get people on the Cedar Point bus to the Hollow Weekends. That would be kind of cool.
I don't care how many muscle relaxants I have to take. I'm going.
You're going to the Hollow Weekends?
Maybe unconscious
Look,
for the
that
whole
was a
thing.
great picture, by the way, on the 420 calendar of us. Was an advertisement you made with our picture?
I just threw a still shot that we had. Ryan was there, myself, and Annie Zelm from Cedar Point. Just put it right up there as an advertisement.
I was
for our
there
show.
too. What are you talking about?
But you were behind the TVs. You have this gigantic TV, Steve, that you're bringing. You sort of
that's
hide
my
behind
face.
it.
That's
behind the screen.
Behind
It is kind of the wizard
So you do
behind
sort
us.
of miss getting in shots sometimes.
Oh, I can't wait to go back.
It's like all the pictures of my family.
Ken Miller. What did you think about Ken Miller, real quick? The historian.
Oh yeah, the historian guy. You know,
unbelievable.
I'll tell you what, that guy is a gem. Only problem is we couldn't get him to talk into the mic. He wouldn't talk into.
Well, and he knows enough to keep the story short because it's radio. It's not a
But
documentary.
He needed a lapel mic, though. He was not going to lean
Yeah.
into the microphone. He's over here talking like this, and we're like, "Hey, Ken, microphone's over there." I just let him go. I
What
wasn't
kind of
going to argue.
historian was he?
He was a docent from the Historical Society at Cedar Point. He
Right.
talked about the history
It's like
there. They started out
back
as a
in
bath,
1870.
bath and beer, man. Get naked and get drunk. That's what Cedar Point was all about.
And it's not now.
No.
Well, for the workers, it
Wait a
is.
minute. I was.
For the workers, it is.
For the workers, it is. That's pretty funny.
My sister came home pregnant after after a summer of working the train.
Wait a minute.
You mean the roller coasters didn't shake that baby right out of her? No.
No, she was working the train.
Maybe
A little
she was
slower,
trying
little more stable, and yes.
Trying to use the train as a contraceptive device is not a good idea.
Nope, it was for pleasure. It was a pleasure train, I guess, for that summer.
So that's
not
not
talking anymore.
That's not
So-
the Mile
so it's-
High Club. That's like the Mile
You
Long
can say
Club.
The Mile an Hour
I can't
Club.
say
It's the
Magnum.
Mile an Hour Club.
You can say pleasure train, but I can't say Magnum.
Oh my
Come
God.
on.
I like to ride the train for different reasons, of course, but I love the train.
You know what? I
You don't understand why the
hilarious,
line
man.
for the train is so long today, and it's all guys.
Nice.
What's up?
Good sound effect. Oh, but it was a great time and so many smiling faces. You got to get there next time we go.
All right, so we're going to come back and play the contest. We're playing this week for a prize from Puff Danny's. He's got the beautiful glass boutique in Wyandotte on 4th Street. You don't want to miss that. We're going to give you a vaporizer if you can remember some stuff, some trivia from last week's show. We'll be right back.
More of your calls next. 810-423-2350. We'll be right back after this on the Medical Marijuana Radio Show. The Medical Marijuana Radio Network.
Well, this formula is specifically to grow cannabis.
That's Ray Kogo for Kogo's Original Cannabis Formula Nutrients.
Now, everybody knows that large buds and tight buds come from genetics, and then the amount of light you use. The other part is having the correct nutrients that the plant's going to use. Mine specifically to grow cannabis, so it's going to get everything that it needs.
Ray knows what you may not. Those nutrient companies you can get in most grow shops are not cannabis specific. That means they take the stuff out of the bloom that your plant needs in bloom. You can get Kogo's Original Cannabis Formula Nutrients too. It's just 2 1-gallon jugs that make over 600 gallons of nutrients, all for less than $100. See the difference for yourself.
More trichomes, bigger buds, faster growth, and for less money.
Go to CANNABISformula.com or call Ray direct at 517-375-8998. That's 517-375-8998. Kogo's Original Cannabis Formula Nutrients.
The law offices of Targowski and Grow remind you to stand up for your rights. Always treat law enforcement with respect, but if you're detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search or seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to talk to my attorneys, John Targowski and Daniel Grow. Targowski and Grow have the education and experience you need to be successful in Michigan courts. Call Targowski and Grow toll-free, 800-957-1069. The law offices of Targowski and Grow, 800-957-1069.
When I was young, I knew something was wrong. My mother would forget to pick me up from school.
Drugs and alcohol may make you forget your problems and more.
Then she remembered something. Me. My mom worked hard to be in recovery, and now she is here for me. Hi, Mom.
You ready? Let's go. For drug and alcohol treatment for you or someone you love, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, we're back. It's just about 8 minutes before 1 o'clock. Stand by for the Homegrown Report, which is coming on in moments.
Uncle Skunky just told me I could lick his fingers, and I'm not sure what that's about.
Ew.
That's why I went.
I do not want to know.
I hope it's not like
That's not the same as pulling his finger either. So
No.
that's,
Boy, I
think
really
that's
hope
worse.
not.
That's not good.
Really
See, we have fun at the studio, guys. Yeah. We
I am
really do.
getting the heck out of here.
we all
long do I have
shower
to
right
sit
after
here?
the show, just for the record.
It's not a Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Look, I don't know if we're going to have a contest. We've got to get some people on the phone. If you want to play the contest, if you think you might know something about Cedar Point, we're going to ask you questions about last week's show. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. If we don't get a contestant, we'll just talk until the show closes.
That's what radio is about anyway.
So if you'd really rather not hear us talk anymore, and we don't blame you,
If you want
please
to
call
it's,
for the love of God, call the show.
Steve, we haven't had the sound effect about you shut up, women, and women don't tell me what to do. We got to play that every week.
We're working on it.
Every week.
You really want it?
Oh, of course.
Do I have it up here? Where's it at?
I like that
It's
one.
never appropriate, but we always play it.
It's been appropriate.
I don't even know
I don't
what it's
listen to
at.
no women.
Is it up here? Where's the liar one?
Just back to medical marijuana for a minute. We had a great decision in Archie
women are
Keel's
evil,
case, by the way.
lying
It's an
bitches.
unpublished decision from the Court of Appeals. That was very positive for us.
I didn't open that email. Can you tell me quickly, please? That's how busy I was this week.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Let me give the people the phone number because I'm trying to get them up on the phone. And they don't know the number. It's 248-848-1310. That's 248-848-1310 if you want to be play the contest. Otherwise, we're gonna dazzle you with our fill-in skills.
Keel, please tell me about Keel.
Keel defends Section 4, and Matt Abel would be much better. Or
You're
Michael
talking about
Kumar.
Archie Keel.
Archie Keel's case, yes. They decided that he's entitled to present a Section 4 defense for his situation, and that they remanded it and are going to give him a new trial, which is significant because the court of, without getting into too much legal details as to why, the Court of Appeals is 19-0 against us up until recently. They've really had a philosophy that everything medical marijuana related is going to be shot down. But now, since the Supreme Court came back with their
Just gonna
unanimous
say,
decision,
since the spanking in King,
and they said your definition was internally inconsistent, Court of Appeals and lower courts, and you need to change the way that you're doing things.
Yeah.
They've actually responded, and it seems as if they're taking those words to heart. This is encouraging for not only just for the attorneys or for anybody that's charged, but for everyone in the state of Michigan, because it could herald a kinder, gentler attitude towards businesses, towards patients, towards caregivers.
kinder and gentler is good. Just, according to the intent of the people would be nice for the appellate court. And I was wondering what was about to happen with the appellate courts after the King. I call it the King spanking. I don't know what you call it, but I think the Supreme Court in King was very clear about their disappointment with the appellate courts and their lack of support for patients. And I was really encouraged
Which
by that.
gives
and
a lot
nice
of credence
see
to
that
the
it's
whole
been-
thing that this is a big boys network.
Well, and that message was not just directed towards the Court of Appeals, but to all of the judicial districts,
And law
everything,
enforcement, everything,
as well as the
prosecutors.
legislature as well. They said your attitude about patients not having any rights and patients being treated like drug dealers is internally inconsistent with the message sent by the voters in 2008, and you need to respect that. And they
So
said
is calling
unanimously.
marijuana
marijuana a Schedule 1 substance in the state of Michigan. I
completely agree.
believe that the people of the state of Michigan inadvertently, by way of passing the Medical Marijuana Act, took it off Schedule 1 because Schedule 1 is only for things that are not recognized in this state as having medical value.
MCL says marijuana is medicine. It's the preamble of the Medical Marijuana Act.
It also
It's law
says
now.
that all other laws that are not consistent with this act are have to be in compliance with it.
And unfortunately, that provision has not been enforced. It doesn't supersede things like the driving code or the public health code, although it may have been intended to do so by the voters.
I'm about to argue in a motion for dismissal, in a brief for motion for dismissal in a case that King did carve out a driving exemption. Because frankly, in my opinion, it did. I think the language of King was very clear. If you meet Section 8 and you don't violate Section 7, then your charges must be dismissed. And Section 7 doesn't say anything about driving.
It says
with
any
marijuana
prosecution.
It says impaired. It says, but Section 7 says driving impaired.
It mentions driving in there almost as if an afterthought was thrown in by the guys that wrote the law, or by the people that wrote the law, just to placate somebody. And now that particular line is being used against us over and over and over because it is part of the law itself.
But I think King may have carved out a driving exemption. And we'll find out. We have a lot. I think what we're hearing, though, is we've got a lot of litigating to do on this still. That makes the lawyers happy and frustrated, but mostly happy. But it's not good for patients. It's not good for
3 years into
caregivers.
this.
And we need to continue to find these issues that are the so-called gray areas in the law and continue to litigate them to get clarification. And in the meantime, people have to stay educated and not through the state website.
And all of us thought that the Supreme Court would...
seriously.
That's a horrible source of information. And many of us thought that the Supreme Court would never come up with a positive decision on marijuana because of the composition of the Supreme Court. They surprised. And now we're seeing the Court of Appeals and other courts reflecting that. This is a positive move for us in 2012, people. It really is.
It's fantastic. I would be cautiously optimistic and say there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm asked constantly, will it ever go back? And I'm like, no, it's never going to go back to the way it was.
The genie's been out of the bottle. You're not pushing
2010
it
will never come back again. No.
Nope.
The other thing that I wanted to draw people's attention to is the federal push from about 18 co-sponsors,
including Justin Amash from Michigan.
Yes, of a new law. Tell them, Rick, what's the law?
The law is going to empower people to use the medical marijuana affirmative defense in federal prosecutions for any state that has medical marijuana as a law. Right now, as we know, federal guys disown any medical marijuana laws itself. They still treat you like you're a drug dealer. But this would empower all people that reside in states and are registered and in compliance with their state law to represent that in federal court. Huge difference.
If you're interested in that kind of thing, by the way, look up the Steele-Smith case. United States versus Steele-Smith. It's the
Steele-Smith?
Yeah.
We're all doing that right now, Denise.
This is the California case where they may allow that defense in federal court, and trial is scheduled again for July 24th.
Well,
we don't know if it's going to be bumped.
The whole thing is this business about juries hearing the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
They certainly can handle the truth, and they deserve it. They're deciders of fact.
And that's exactly what we got out of King and Keel, or King and Kalanick, where you're required to let the jury of their peers hear the fact that they were a medical marijuana patient and let them decide whether they were in compliance or
Every
not.
prosecutor in the state knows that's not going to happen.
I prefer the pronunciation Kalanick. Kalanick just sounds just too much. It's just,
Colon blow.
Yeah, right. I'm just sorry.
Old
That's
Saturday Night Live skit.
I love the colon blow.
Dan Aykroyd with the metal bits.
Oh,
Colon
God,
blow.
that's hilarious.
You survived another hour of us. Congratulations.
And you got away with not being on the contest. Congratulations.
That means they like us. They really like us.
Arbitron says we're the #1 station. Yay.
Look, we're trying to give away a vaporizer. It's going to be one of those, it does either, plant material, or it does the oils. It's about the size of a cigarette pack. You push the button in and you puff. It's good.
Does Puff Danny have a brother named Cough Danny?
Cough Danny. No, I can tell you, though, that he does have a beautiful place. I've got some pictures of it. We're going to put them up on the website.
Excellent.
Down there in Wyandotte. He's got just about everything under the sun that you could want, and then some. If you could think about getting it from a head shop, find it at Puff Danny's on 4th Street in Wyandotte. It's really not that far away. And they got all the stuff, really.
Hydro Hut, we have a lot of advertisers that are great people.
We got to go. We'll see you next week on the Medical Marijuana Radio Show.
The Medical Marijuana Radio Show and RadioWeedShow.com are trademarks. Copyright 2011.